Depending on who you talk to, they'll tell you something different occurred in Iowa. Some people are saying, why would Pete Buttigieg cheat in an election to withhold the results showing he won? It makes no sense. Except the question actually is whether or not he altered the results with this shadow incorporated app that made everybody suspicious. Boy, I've seen a ton of conspiracy theories, and I hate to use that phrase because I'll put it this way. How is it that we knew something would happen to stop Bernie? How is it that we knew after the results got delayed, it would benefit someone, Pete Buttigieg, when he gave that victory speech, and people immediately started saying, why is Buttigieg doing a victory speech? How is it we knew when the results trickled in, it would disproportionately reduce Sanders' votes? How did we know all of this? It's because we are humans and we're good at seeing patterns. Now, I'm not saying there's a grand conspiracy, but at a certain point, what do you believe? The extreme coincidence that in this case where they cheated Bernie last time, we just happened to win another lottery with all of these weird circumstances? I'll tell you what, I don't know what happened, but we have reason to believe everything is all messed up. And I've got some news stories for you. First of all, the New York Times found over 100 inconsistencies and errors. And there was a major error that made it seem like Pete Buttigieg was gaining when he was actually losing to Bernie. But come on. The DNC's been cheating. We know they cheat. Would they go this far? Yeah, I'd believe it. But now there's the big split. Whose fault is it? What's really happening? Well, the DNC, the Democrats, the Iowa Democratic Party, they have a new target as to who to blame. And guess who they're blaming? Of course, Trump supporters. Check out this story from Bloomberg, which is unsourced from a company owned by one of the candidates in the Democratic race that should have never gone out, saying, Trump fans flooded Iowa caucus hotline, Democrats say. Do they really now? Okay, let me tell you something. I don't know if they did or they didn't. I don't know why many of them would. Maybe they did. But this website, Bloomberg, okay, you know who it's owned by? Bloomberg. He's running. He's a Democrat. So I know just because he owns it, it's not the worst thing in the world. But why would a Democratic candidate's news outlet, who's already said in the past they won't investigate him, then come out with a story blaming Trump supporters for jamming up the hotlines, making it harder for them to get the results? Well, of course they're going to start blaming Trump supporters. They don't overtly say Trump supporters caused the jam up or anything like that, but they're laying seeds saying, oh, the hotlines were all messed up and the Democrats couldn't get the results in because Trump supporters were calling in and jamming up the lines. Except there are many posts from precinct captains in the Iowa caucus saying things like, we submitted our results. They knew what the results were, but they didn't report it for several days. Why? I can't tell you why. I'll tell you what a lot of the Bernie Sanders supporters are thinking. This gave Pete Buttigieg several days of victory laps as the front runner, and his polls are already improving because people want to vote for the winner. I'll tell you something else, and we'll read this story next. But let me just say, if and shout out to Michael Malice, this was his tweet, if you guys know who he is. He tweeted something to the effect of every poll in Iowa was wrong. Every single poll. It's 2016 all over again. Are any of these media companies going to be held to account for being wrong? No, but they were wrong. I can't believe Pete Buttigieg is actually winning because I've called him a gray blob. What I mean by that is he's just an amorphous nothing. I don't know what he represents or what he's for. He gives generic talking points and he doesn't have particular star power, but here he is, narrowly in first place, but not by the popular vote. Well, okay, let's see why the Democrats are starting to blame Trump supporters for their mess up. I want to stress they didn't say the entire mess up was caused by Trump supporters, but I think it's silly that when they're talking about the hotlines being jammed up and it's hard for them to calculate results, they were saying, but Trump supporters are flooding the lines. And that's what I see people tweeting. Now they've laid the seed where they have plausible deniability. Well, we never said it was their fault, but everyone else is saying, aha, this is it. It was Trump. Let's read. Bloomberg, with a conflict of interest, reports supporters of President Donald Trump flooded a hotline used by Iowa precinct chairs to report Democratic caucus results after the telephone number was posted online, worsening delays in the statewide tally, a top state Democrat told party leaders on a conference call Wednesday night. And without confirmation, Bloomberg says, let's roll with the story. Here's what you do, Bloomberg. Check the phone records. See who was calling in. Ask them when it happened, what time. And yeah, it's going to be really hard work, but you got to confirm what they're saying is true. Because of a conflict of interest here. Of course, the Democrats have a strong political reason to blame Trump's supporters. So this story should not be up. According to two participants on the call, Ken Sager, a state Democratic Central Committee member, was among those answering the hotline on caucus night and said people called in and expressed support for Trump. The phone number became public after people posted photos of caucus paperwork that included the hotline number, one of the people on the call said. The phone call Wednesday night between the Iowa Democratic Party staff and State Central Committee, the party's elected governing body, came as the party was still counting results. Several glitches, including problems with a new phone application that was supposed to quickly send individual caucus results to the state party, plagued Iowa's troubled caucuses, causing the outcome to be delayed for days. More than 48 hours after caucusing began, the party had reported results from 96% of precincts, and the race was too close to call. Sager, who is also the president of the Iowa AFL-CIO, declined to comment when reached by Bloomberg News. Troy Price, the chairman of the Iowa Democratic Party, alluded to interference on the conference call, but did not specifically cite Trump supporters. You see where this is going? We were dealing with serious, interference. Then the other guy says, and Trump supporters kept calling, and then the people go on Twitter and start pushing the narrative. It's not the Democrats' fault. It's the Trump supporters' fault. We didn't cheat, Bernie. Why would Pete Buttigieg try and jam up his own victory? Why would Pete Buttigieg give a ton of money to Shadow Inc., and then that app is being used by the Democrats to calculate results? That's called a serious conflict of interest. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I am not a big fan of Bernie or his policies. I was in the past. But if he is the choice of the people, then so be it. Those are the rules we all play by. The Democrats apparently don't. And I know there's a challenge in saying the Democrats, but I typically don't refer to Bernie Sanders when I say the Democrats. But it's weird because he's running as one. AOC is one. Ilhan Omar, they're Democrats too. So what do we call them? I guess the far left Democrats. I tend to do that. But there's a real battle between external forces and the establishment Democratic Party. And the establishment Democratic Party is, well, I guess maliciously defending itself. Like, from an invasive force they don't like. Sorry, you're the Democratic Party, and if someone runs and it's popular among Democratic voters, that's the way the rules are made. But here's the advantage of doing this silly, ridiculous caucus system where they flip coins or play rock, paper, scissors to determine who gets votes. Tiebreakers can disproportionately benefit someone like Buttigieg, who's now ahead by only 3 state delegate equivalents. The whole system is so complicated that there's no way to know for sure if Bernie Sanders is being cheated because the process is so ridiculously convoluted. So I'll tell you what my prediction is. My prediction is that we're going to have way more problems in many more primaries. They're going to be a little bit smaller, maybe not this big. But that's going to give plausible deniability to the establishment to say, oh, we don't know exactly what's happening. Oh, no, we're just bad at what we do. I'm not saying they're going to cheat overtly, like, heavy-handed manipulation of votes or anything like that. But they certainly play dirty when it comes to the press and when it comes to their debates. And that's what I think is absolutely plausible. The establishment Democrats played dirty in 2016 against Bernie. Why would they not do the same today? And who thought Buttigieg would be in first place? Come on. They say Sager, we read that already. The state party declined to comment, but the Trump campaign weighed in. Don't know anything about that, but maybe Democrats should consider using an app of some kind next time. Tim Murdaugh, a spokesman for Trump's campaign, wrote in a text message Wednesday night. Yes, seemingly trolling the Democrats. We get it. When the phone application malfunctioned, precinct chairs turned to the telephone hotline to get the results to the Iowa Democratic Party. Many were placed on long holds and some gave up. And I stated the other day, how is it that you can just call in and say, here are the results, here who I, like, you don't have any security at all? Just make a phone call and claim that's who you are? That's ridiculous. Sean Sebastian, the caucus secretary for a precinct in Story County, was on hold with the state party for an hour trying to report results through the hotline because of app problems. Party officials came on the phone while he was being interviewed by CNN's Wolf Blitzer, who asked Sebastian to report his precinct's results while he was on the air. He agreed, but by the time he turned back to the state party, officials had hung up on him. And they're blaming Trump supporters for interference. Price had also been working to assure Democratic leaders that the party is taking every step to confirm the accuracy of the results. On Tuesday, he sent an email to the state central committee outlining the steps the party has taken. As you know, this has been a challenging few days for our team and our state party. Media accounts tell part of the story. Technical issues and new reporting requirements caused delays and confusion. What received less attention by the media was the deliberative and cross-functional approach we brought to preparing for and solving these challenges. The app's trouble started before caucusing began on Monday morning. Multiple precinct chairs reported difficulties downloading and logging into the app. Then, once the results came in, the Iowa Democratic Party said there was a coding error. I don't believe. So some people think that Buttigieg's, donation to this was, the app was going to manipulate the vote count. They said there were inconsistencies. I've seen some conspiracy theories saying that Bernie Sanders had watchers volunteering at every office. And when they saw the results reported were wrong, they immediately, let Bernie know. Bernie contacted some lawyers, and the lawyers, started wiggling their finger at DNC, who then said, okay, wait, hold on. It must be a coding problem. I don't know if any of that is true. And I don't think it needs to be. There's a much simpler solution. The app maybe worked, maybe it didn't, or it didn't, but the Democrats absolutely took advantage of or actually manipulated the slow roll of results to give Pete Buttigieg more than enough time to do victory laps and claim to be the winner. I'll tell you this, man. I was sitting on my couch. We're watching the primary results. We just wrapped up one of our podcast shows. And then all of a sudden, Buttigieg gets up and gives a victory speech that was very definitive. And I thought it was weird. I'm like, why is Buttigieg claiming he won and that Iowa shocked the nation? Nobody knows what happened yet. There were no results. And Buttigieg was not polling anywhere near first place. And Buttigieg was right. It's really weird, isn't it? So, look, I get it. They want to slowly start seeding that, Trump supporters were involved. The story does include the disclaimer that Bloomberg is seeking the Democratic presidential nomination. He's the founder and majority owner of Bloomberg LP, the parent company of Bloomberg News. But let me just jump over to these results, which make me absolutely laugh. The Wall Street Journal shows Bernie Sanders in the lead for one reason. He has the popular vote count by just over a couple thousand. But Pete Buttigieg has 3 more delegates. And you can see it's because Bernie appeals to more urban voters and Buttigieg appeals to more rural voters. It's kind of like the Electoral College. Bernie Sanders' progressive camp are very much about getting rid of the Electoral College. But will the moderate camp back that call from the Democrats? Because I don't hear them coming out defending the Electoral College. No, they've all pretty much been on board with it's unfair that Trump won. So they want the popular vote. All right, let's see if Sanders is given the win, considering he has the popular vote. In the end, what did we see? Well, my theory, okay, if I was to speculate, is not that there's a grand scheme to use an app to change votes. It seems like a genuine screw up, but it really does seem like they took advantage of this so that they could make Buttigieg look like the winner because they really don't want Bernie. Check out this story from the Daily Caller. Iowa Democratic Party makes minor correction to caucus results. Oh, a minor correction. And you know what the correction did? It changed the narrative from Pete Buttigieg widens his lead to Bernie Sanders shrinks the lead, approaching first place. Check this out. Daily Caller reports, the Iowa Democratic Party's caucus woes continued Wednesday when the party made a minor correction to an update of its results that inaccurately showed 2020 Democratic presidential candidate Pete Buttigieg increasing his lead over Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders. But my, oh my, that narrative emerged. And what did everyone report? Buttigieg is expanding his lead over Sanders. Looks like he's going to take it, though it is too close to call. And then just wait a little bit, let the stories, bounce around, get in people's minds, and then say, actually, Bernie is closing that lead. The results have already been delayed because of a glitch. We know that. On Tuesday, IDP released 62% of results showing that Buttigieg maintained a lead in delegate vote share over Sanders. The former South Bend, Indiana mayor's lead grew slightly Wednesday after IDP had released the results of 75% of precincts. IDP identified an error in an update released later Wednesday. Those results, which brought the total precincts reporting to 85%, showed that Buttigieg's lead grew by another 0.7 percentage points. But IDP appeared to have inaccurately attributed delegates to businessman Tom Steyer and Deval Patrick. The corrected results showed that Sanders had actually narrowed Buttigieg's lead by 0.4 percentage points. With 86% of precincts reporting, Buttigieg, okay, so that's old news, and we don't really care about the rest of them. Apparently something else really funny happened. I'll just show you the sign. Sign placed on the Iowa Democratic Party's building voices frustration over caucus results. It says, attention DNC/IDP. Come out from the shadow. You cannot hide from the truth. I'm willing to bet that was the far left, Antifa types who support Bernie who put up that sign. And I'm willing to bet, here's what I said on Twitter the other day. In 2021, there will be riots. The far left will be out in droves with Antifa smashing windows and doing all their crazy things that Antifa loves to do. They're not going to be doing it because Donald Trump was reelected, sort of. They're mostly going to be doing it because Bernie Sanders had the nomination stolen for the second consecutive election. But let me stop, right? I'm being somewhat silly. Here's what's really going to happen. When the nomination process at the Democratic National Convention is over and Bernie Sanders is robbed once again, that's when we're going to see chaos. Now, Trump will get reelected, and what they'll likely say is this could have been averted if the DNC just let Bernie run. They claim that the DNC would rather see Trump win than Bernie because at least Trump is still a capitalist. Let me tell you a story. Back in 2016, I was at the Republican National Convention. We thought there was going to be major protests. There was not. Not really. Small handful of people, kind of boring. No one really cared. A lot of chicken wings, though, at bars as people drank and celebrated. I got to admit, it was kind of corporate and kind of, whatever. But what happened at the DNC? Thousands of protesters tried jumping barricades. Police came out. It was a huge and massive protest. You know why? This is exactly how I see it with the Democrats. Now, I am no fan of the far left ideological nonsense, but I did come from a more freedom-minded, left-leaning, group of friends, and that's how I grew up. And so there's a big conflict now in that, look, man, Trump is not that bad. These people are nuts. And Bernie Sanders' base would be wise to actually embrace Trump's calling out of the DNC. Trump is saying they're cheating Bernie. Why not say, yes, it's true, and take the support from Trump supporters who are pointing to the Democratic corruption? Don't ask me why they don't do it, because even the media has been lying about the progressives. For once, just say, okay, you don't got to like any of these people, but they're right. And then you have the overwhelming majority of this country pointing to the establishment saying they are cheating. They won't do it. They don't. So, you know what? I don't know what else to tell you, man. We are going to see a lot of rage and anger, but the people who are protesting, they are protesting the Democrats because the Democrats are the gatekeepers stopping them from getting elected. The Republicans do what Republicans do, and I get it. When we had a cohesive left, it was easy to point the finger at the things Republicans were doing we didn't like. And also, I was very critical of Obama, for sure. But now you have this left realizing the Republicans are going to do Republican, okay? They're always going to do that. That's not the concern of these progressives and far-left activists. Their concern is whether or not they get a seat at the table at the party that's supposed to represent the working class and their views, which does not. The establishment is the crony capitalist elite. It is not the free market, free individual, social justice group of people. Not that I think AOC and Bernie are good people for the most part. I think Bernie's been pandering and lying. I think he's an okay dude. I'm just not into it, okay? AOC, I think, is celebrity obsessed and narcissistic. And I can say that I can say a lot. I say that about Trump, but apparently it's not good enough. Yeah, they're all the same to me, but I'll tell you this. The gatekeepers blocking them are the Democrat establishment, which has become the party of the wealthy. There are going to be massive protests at the DNC. I'd be willing to bet. I would bet a large sum. The Democratic National Convention, when they do the nomination process, it's going to be huge protests. And I was there. I was there when Bernie, I was there when Hillary was named, and there were protesters there for Bernie Sanders. What do you think is going to happen now 4 years later? Bernie is clearly the front runner, raising tons of money, polling really, really well. They said Biden was the front runner. Biden got fourth place, and they called him the national lead. If we look at the polls now, looks like it's Bernie. We'll see what happens with Buttigieg. But I'll tell you this. Antifa ain't going to be showing up at the RNC complaining about Donald Trump. I don't even know what they do. They do the Republican National Convention, I guess, right? Because Trump still is, there still is a caucus, although he's sweeping with 97 to 100%. The DNC is going to be nuts. It is going to be balls to the wall bedlam. Antifa will be running about, and these are going to be Bernie Sanders people. I'd make a large bet. I'd be willing to bet. Okay, I mean that. Not literally, I'm just saying a gentleman's bet that Bernie Sanders is going to get robbed blind by the DNC. And we're watching it in real time, and we all know it. Now, the establishment, of course, wants to point the finger at Trump supporters. That's the key takeaway here. But what do you think Antifa is going to do? Do you think they're going to be like, is it Trump's fault? No. When the establishment comes out and tries pointing the finger at Trump's base so that passive liberals who aren't paying attention get mad and say orange man bad or the resistance type shriek, Antifa is going to be saying, no, it's the Democratic establishment that is robbing us and what we want. Trump is agreeing with you guys, man. Trump is not the one coming out saying, don't let Bernie run. No, he's saying the Democrats are stealing it from Bernie. And we all agree. So I'll tell you what, Antifa, you can despise everything about Trump. You can hate Trump to his core, but you can still agree when he says the Democrats are stealing it from Bernie. And at least then you'll have that support. But it doesn't matter if they say it overtly or not. I think they all know it. They know that they can hate Trump with every ounce of their being, but Trump isn't the one stopping Bernie Sanders from becoming president. So stick around. Next segment's coming up at 4 p.m. at youtube.com/Timcast. It is a different channel, and I will see you all there.